Royce Morales is the founder and teacher of the Perfect Life Awakening program, author, columnist, and expert on mirroring. She empowers clients with her profound process that helps neutralize self-sabotage, shift stuck patterns and negative thinking by locating the origins of limiting subconscious programmed beliefs. Live an authentic existence. Discover your true purpose. Connect with your higher consciousness. Reset your life. Transform from triggered to empowered and attract what you truly desire and deserve by discovering what life is reflecting to you. Because it's all mirrors.
Hello, welcome to my show. And boy, what perfect timing today's show is to talk about what the heck is being mirrored to us about politics. I'm assuming most everybody saw the debate last night. It was really interesting. I was watching it through a lens of trying to see what this whole thing is mirroring to me, because, there's a lot to see. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself in case you don't know. I am the teacher of Perfect Life Awakening, and I talk about mirroring all the time in my courses, in my program. And basically, I'm going to explain a little bit more about mirroring in case you haven't tuned into my other shows. But basically, life is constantly reflecting mirrors to us about whatever it is that we're suppressing, whatever we're not seeing about ourselves or we're in denial about. And when we do that, we can stop feeling so angry and triggered all the time because it immediately diffuses it. I won't get into the debate and all that it potentially triggered in all of us in a few minutes. And I have a couple of co-hosts today that are going to talk about all that too. We're going to talk about conscious politics and see what we need to learn about ourselves from that. So I want to just, again, explain the basics of mirroring. And I'll pull up my first slide to just remind you that mirrors are like seesaws. Whatever you push down on one side of a seesaw has to come up somewhere. So if we're ignoring something about ourselves or denying or running from something about ourselves, it's going to come up in some way because energy cannot be suppressed. And I always say that there's this unalterable universal law that I compare to gravity that states nothing can ever be suppressed. It's, right there, Einstein. So let's move to that second slide. And I want to talk about some examples of mirrors. I have probably 50 examples of mirrors. Some of them come right straight from my own life, but these are some that I think are important to know, especially based on the discussion we're going to have today about politics. So the first one is you judge in others the qualities or aspects of yourself that you're judging. So I used to believe I was a terrible dancer. I just had this strong belief that I just had no rhythm and I couldn't dance. And I was out dancing with my current boyfriend, and he was a really good dancer. And all these people were dancing. And I kept thinking, oh my God, everybody is looking at me. And they're thinking, oh God, that person should not be on the dance floor. She's terrible. So I believed that people were critical of me in the same way that I was critical of myself. And we often attract people who criticize us in that way to show us what? The mirror of our own criticism. And then we get to be right. Yeah, I can't dance. And I'm such a victim. Everybody hates how I dance. So that's something you can apply in your life immediately, because how many times do you find yourself judging others? So just take a look. Am I judging myself in the same way? The second one, again, I can use an example of my own life. If you're trying to manipulate someone to change, it's really you that you're trying to get to change in the same, perhaps, way, but you won't admit it. Example, real quick one. Ex-husband of mine was a total slob. He would walk into the house at night after work, and he would, drop his briefcase, drop his socks, drop his clothes, make a little line of mess. And all the time for our 7 years of marriage. I tried to get him to be a neat person, and it never worked, and it drove me crazy. In fact, I put dirty socks under his pillow at night just to make my point. And of course, that didn't work either. When we got divorced, within the first week of him not being in the house, I noticed, wow, gosh, the house is such a mess. What's going on? And I realized I was the slob, but I had suppressed it because I was supposed to be the good example of a housewife keeping the house clean. My mother used to yell at me about my messy room all the time. So it was me that was trying to manipulate myself, but I had suppressed that. Now, there's a couple more that I want to talk about on the next slide. And this one is whatever you fear that someone will do to you, you believe that you will do it to them. And you may subconsciously get them to do it to you first, so you're safe. And maybe you've already done it to them in some way. So if you're terrified that your husband is going to cheat on you, it could be that you're subconsciously trying to get them to cheat on you so you can be right. And maybe on some level, you have already cheated on them. Maybe you haven't gone out and had an affair, but maybe you've shut down to them in some way, or maybe you're not being completely truthful with them. So we won't admit it, but in some way we have done that, and we've probably done it to ourselves in some way. How am I cheating on myself? Number 4, love this one. Whatever you do to yourself secretively, you attract others to do it to you, and then you feel like a victim of what they did. And the example is you may attract others to lie to you because you're lying to yourself, or maybe you're lying to others and you're in denial of that. So you get others to show that to you, which I think is a really interesting lead-in to talk about politics and the debate, because as we all know, there's a lot of lying going on. So I want to introduce you to my 2 co-hosts, my amazing co-hosts, and we can just bring them up here. We have Stephen Morrison and Jacqueline Stratton. Stephen did my classes a long time ago, and Jacqui is one of my longtime students. And Stephen, let me just tell you a little bit about him. Pull up my notes here because he's got a lot of things to say about. He's a former psychotherapist before he, as he says, morphed into creating what he calls the spiritual workout, mental health for your soul. And that birthed itself because he is obsessed with exploring ancient spiritual teachings, as well as developing some 15 universal higher consciousness concepts. And I'm hoping that he'll talk to us about some of those. And he kind of integrated those tools and ended up really helping people to resolve repetitious patterns, solve challenges. And I love this quote from him. He says, "Humans do not have to suffer." And that's his philosophy on what he does. He's also an author. He wrote An Extra Year, Grief and Loss in the New Age. And he also has a Substack called The Conscious Politics Op-Ed. So make sure to follow him on that Substack. It's really filled with all kinds of interesting information. So welcome, Stephen. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Royce. It's really, after some years, it's nice to see you again.
Yes, definitely.
Your presence. Thank you.
Yes. And then let me introduce Jacqui. She's been on my show before, but just to remind everybody, she studied multiple genres of self-help techniques and spiritual endeavors for years. She's taught all levels of elementary school for over 30 years. She has her master's in education. She's a child development and parenting expert. And we're going to do a show together pretty soon that talks about parenting in a conscious way. And she's going to talk about how she applies mirroring in this, I keep wanting to say crazy political time, because it really is interesting, isn't it? So I want to just, first of all, talk about what I'm seeing in terms of what's being mirrored politically, and then we can just open up and talk about all of it. But wow, just the fact that Liz and Dick Cheney, diehard conservatives, have backed Kamala Harris, I think is indicative of the fact that things are shifting. And I was so thrilled to hear that. It was like, wow, what a healing that is, bringing people together and having people say, gosh, maybe I should vote from my heart and not listen to the lies that are going on. I just thought that was miraculous. And bipartisan support is unheard of. And then I heard an interesting statistic. I don't know how true it is or how they find these statistics, but they said that 5% of Republicans are planning to vote Democratic. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. I also feel like just the fact that we have a female person running, I think there's a lot of male-female balance healing going on. I really do. It used to be that we would vote for someone that was logical and had their facts straight and, could express themselves in a very logical way. Yeah. And I'm watching how Kamala is just, she speaks from her heart and she's smiling and she's joyous and she's real. And it just is amazing to me what a healing that is on the planet, for the planet. Energy balancing. And she's balancing the left and right side of the brain, logic and creativity and compassion and all of that. Joy and seriousness. So a lot of balancing going on. And I think, again, kind of in a big healing sort of way, I think that America is starting to really deserve to be a democracy. We're starting to embrace what we stand for as a nation: freedom, inclusiveness, making available choices for ourselves, all of that. And finally, confronting our denial about racism. And I think that's so important. And it's, being brought up to the forefront by both of these candidates. So as I was watching the debate, and I'll let you guys talk in a minute, I know I'm going on and on. You're taking good notes. But as I was watching the debate, I kept thinking, wow, this is just so incredible, the stuff that he is bringing up for us so that we can heal. I kept looking at it as every lie he told, every reaction he had was a mirror for us to confront our own level of lying, our own level of denial. And what a gift that is. It really is. So enough about me. Let's talk about you guys. So tell us what you thought about the debate, what you noticed. And actually, I want to ask Stephen, first of all, you talk about conscious politics. Can you kind of give us an idea of what that means to you, what that's about for you?
So sometimes it really just sounds very pompous and arrogant. Say, conscious, I'm a conscious person, he's a conscious person, we are living consciously. But it kind of is what it is. It's a good descriptor. Now, there's no one way for a person to live consciously. You mentioned earlier the practice that I've evolved my psychotherapy practice into, which is just a practice of 15 concepts, like be present and be compassionate and take responsibility, and the law of attraction is always on, and 10 or 11 others. And you can see I didn't make any of them up. But when we're living consciously, for me, this is a way to stay on that path. So whether I'm working with individuals in a therapeutic type setting, counseling type setting, one-on-one or in groups, or I'm looking at the world, for me, it's the exact same lens, and I'm looking through these concepts. I've always had an affinity for politics, and now I like to do what I can to shift perspective, offer different perspective, look at whatever we're looking at through this lens and see what it looks like from that perspective. And that's what that project is about.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. So
I answered your question.
Yes. So you gave us a few little hints as to the 15.
Yeah. Want them all?
more of those hints because those sounded really
Want them
important.
all? Okay, I'll just read them off. It's easy enough to do. Be compassionate. Beliefs matter. Be present. Choices abound. Everything is energy. Have an attitude of gratitude. Intentions matter. Judgments separate us. Listen to inspiration. Mind and body are connected. Take responsibility, nobody's favorite. The law of attraction is always on. We are all connected. We are here for a reason, no accidents. And finally, we belong to the planet, not the planet to us. So for me, coming in to a counseling situation, looking at the political situation, what does it look like? Which of these might apply at any given moment? And that's just subjective interpretation. And it's about cultivating a practice of continuing to look at life and challenges and issues through this lens. And what I find is that when we really apply these ideas that most of us say we believe in, life gets more fun, more interesting, and problems get solved.
Yes,
Not
definitely.
the only way, but it's a very practical and effective way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those. That was a beautiful 15 ideas. I'm going to have to look those up because I want to have permanent access to them. It reminds me of being an educator because since like babies or preschoolers or TK students or elementary students, we're trying to educate them on being good citizens. And those basic concepts that you just shared are what we're sharing with kids.
Thank you.
One of the things, though, that is the problem is these kids are coming to school from backgrounds depending on their socioeconomic background and culture, all those things that come along with people's backgrounds, values, and all that stuff. Is they have a weak link to this information, and they're not coming to school with the awareness of thinking of other people's feelings and being resourceful. And so I almost am listening to you thinking we have to educate the adults now because we're trying to do the kids, but they're coming from home backgrounds where they're not getting this, and then they're rebelling at schools. And then it's sort of this cyclical repetition of generations kind of getting more unevolved or less evolved. Go ahead. I see you want to respond.
No, well, the cyclical, what did you just say? Cyclical
generational repetition.
Right. So what I hear in that is beliefs, right? Every single one of us has a right to whatever beliefs we have. But I would bet, Jackie, that underneath a big chunk of that are the different belief systems that we come to the public square with, right? And again, we all have a right to whatever beliefs we have. So what I find to be very, very helpful in a situation like that is to start with intention. What do we all want? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to have? This is law of attraction being on, and I find that in groups of people, when we're coming from different places, and we can start from the place of, well, why are we here? What are we wanting? What are we talking about? Oh, we're talking about creating, being good citizens. Well, what does that look like in the world? What do you want to be able to do when you leave your house? What do you want to be able to do when you come home and see a neighbor? What's it like when you run into somebody at the post office or in the supermarket? And to get people to start thinking in terms of what is desired, what we see, what I see more often than not, is how common, how much we really have in common.
Yes.
And that's certainly what Vice President Harris talks about a lot. We have far more in common with each other than what divides us. So I just wonder, when you're in that setting, Jackie, if that would help to help people talk in terms of what's desired, and then what beliefs do I have that align with that and support it, and what beliefs do I have that say, I want this, but my belief says I'm not so sure. And then for me, working at the level of belief, because that's where change can happen. Change the way we look at things and the things we look at change, right? And as we're saying before, as you've been saying, Royce, energy can't be suppressed. It just changes form. And that's how we know any belief we have, no matter how long we've had it, no matter how entrenched it might be, it's still just some energy, and it can move, it can change, it can transform. I can't, can become, I can, and then we're off to the races.
Definitely, yeah. And just to to clarify, my understanding of beliefs, or the way I teach about beliefs, is they're programmed and they become subconscious. And not that we're victims of our beliefs, but we choose them, we buy into them. So if something happens to us, it's what we determine or decide from those events that become our beliefs. So actually, last time I talked about, somebody hitting us with a baseball bat, and we deciding that baseball bats are dangerous, or my father is dangerous, men are dangerous, I can't trust men. I cause people to hit me on the head with a baseball bat. So all of those decisions become the lens of our beliefs that we then look at life through, and that's what we attract. So I think that people are not really too conscious of those beliefs, but they're certainly the other side of the seesaw coming up all over the place on the planet. So, yeah.
Yes, and they will always come up as soon as we start to put our foot on the gas of thinking and talking in terms of what we want.
Yes.
Well, that would sure be nice, but here are all my reasons why that can't happen. Great. Now we know specifically for you or for this group of people what beliefs would benefit from changing, as opposed to starting with the exploration into the beliefs. There's a whole ocean of my conscious, subconscious, and unconscious beliefs. Let me start fishing around in there to see what problems they might be causing. No, I would never do that, because there's no end to that pursuit, right? There will always be stuff. Let's just see, well, what do I want? I want to be wealthy beyond words. Okay, great. But I have an old belief that says, wealthy people are not nice.
Yeah.
So part of me wants to be this, and part of me is resisting being that. But now I know specifically what it is for me, and if I really want this, then I'll change that.
Yeah. And of course, that belief covers up, I don't deserve to be wealthy beyond whatever. There's always a deservingness.
Well, there'll be a whole bunch of them usually. I say, whenever you find a belief, it will likely have some brothers and sisters and cousins. And then let's just see what, is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 15? It really doesn't matter at that point. But then we see very clearly the chunk of energy that might be in our way, that might actually be our foot on the brake when we're wanting to go.
So let's talk about that in terms of what's going on politically. So on a mass consciousness level, do we believe something that's manifesting? Do we have some part of this that says, oh, I don't deserve freedom, I don't deserve to have this balanced male-female energy in the world? So what do you guys think about that in terms of what's showing up politically?
I just noticed when you were sharing and when I was thinking back to the debate last night, the mirror, since we're focusing on mirrors here, of the two candidates and the archetypes that they represent to us as human characters in this time period we're calling life right now, that Trump is sort of representing the archetype of a bully, a know-it-all, a strong man, a Herculean kind of person that can save the world from his perspective, which is sort of a negative point of view. And then we have the other side, and she's sort of like, she reminds me of the Statue of Justice because of all of her legal background with the scale, holding it. And I think she has a blindfold on, or I can't remember.
Maybe justice.
Yeah, blind justice.
Yeah, and Kamala reminds me of that archetype, like standing up for the universal rights of, all of the important civility of the helping animals and plants and everything, humans. And I just thought it was so interesting to think of them in an archetypal mirror to us as a whole nation and a world.
That's a great example. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think and some people relate to one or the other, right? Some people relate to the Herculean, but my sense of things, my intuition is telling me that more people are moving toward evolving. And I think, Stephen, this is what you're trying to do. More people are evolving toward an understanding of being better, right? An improvement, getting better at being who they are, or being a spirit in evolution and continuing on our path in the universe.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I was saying earlier, that I think this whole thing is indicative of the fact that we're getting there. We are evolving. We're looking at both of these two people and going, do I really want to choose that? Yeah. And of course, that's our own mirror. Do I really want to choose that part of me that is a bully and a liar? Or do I want to choose the loving, compassionate, truly caring part of me? And I think that's happening in the world. I really do. And of course, what I always say is things don't heal until they are really in our face. I call it the pie in the face method of healing. It's like, I'm not going to get it until you really trigger me, until you really shove that pie in my face. And I think that's what's going on, that we have to have it in a big way for us to really address it.
Yeah, I'm picturing a giant Earth, Stephen, with a pie coming.
Well, and politically speaking, American version, wasn't it Churchill who said, America always does the right thing after it does all the wrong things? And so that's what until, okay, now we got to deal with it. So yeah, there seems to be something in our collective psyche, maybe just American collective psyche, that for sure has a long history of that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay, I was going to say that we need to take a little bit of a break. And if you're just joining in, or even if you're not just joining in, come back after the break and we're going to talk some more about politics being such incredible mirrors for us, and maybe even what we can do about all that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you want to break free from old patterns and limiting beliefs that subconsciously sabotage your life? What are your triggers, and what really is beneath them? Are you seeking answers to life's big questions, intrigued by the possibility of self-discovery that goes deep? Looking for tools to help you break free from hidden sources of feeling stuck, confused, and unworthy? Perfect Life Awakening takes you on an epic inner adventure that shifts your perception of yourself, others, and life permanently. Identify and overcome the origins of subconscious triggers and limiting beliefs holding you back. That's how you transform your mindset from the roots. That's how you liberate your spirit, awaken your intuition, and discover your true purpose. Dive deep into the mysteries held within. Embark on a life-altering journey of self-discovery. Be a trailblazer within your own life. Go from triggered to empowered, because you deserve a perfect life awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. I am talking about mirrors and politics. I think Jacqui disappeared, but she'll be back. And I'm talking with Stephen Morrison and his amazing program that helps people get unstuck, I guess would be a good word to say. Yeah. People let go of those patterns, Jacqui, and what politics is mirroring to us in terms of helping us heal ourselves, because really that's what it's about. And I know I was reading your Substack, Stephen, and you were talking about hope, clear intention, gratitude, and action in terms of politics. Do you want to expound a little bit about that?
Excuse me, yes. The point that I was endeavoring to make in that particular piece was that hope as a thought and an idea obviously is extremely powerful in many ways. And it seems to have a certain cachet within politics. In other words, if you can get your supporters and people you are endeavoring to support you, to feel a sense of hope within our political landscape, that's a massive win. So there's obvious tremendous value to the concept of hope. And yet, when we are living consciously, there's that word again, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to me individually, I'm not going to hope for a damn thing. I'm going to intend. Law of attraction is always on. It's my job if I'm wanting to be, do, or have things that I'm currently not being, doing, or having. It's my job to get clear about what that is and to take any wish, hope, dream, goal, or desire I might have and call it an intention and work it as an intention. So what I try to get across in the piece, when there are a whole bunch of us talking about all kinds of things and everybody's feeling really hopeful, that's good. I'm not here to trample on that at all. And yet I would encourage anybody in the political world who's riding the hope wave to do what they can to really evolve it into an intention, right?
Yes.
And so, you're out there, you're talking, you got hundreds and thousands and millions of people and candidates and different ways to say things. So it's going to be a little bit different of an encouragement in that world versus if I'm talking to one or two people. But again, conceptually, it's the same. And the mini trap, or maybe not so many, of hoping is then I have to ask somebody, well, you're hoping, so what does that mean to you? And I think in the piece I showed different people, it kind of meant different things to different people, ranging from, well, it's going to happen to, well, I sure hope it happens. And if we're saying I hope it happens, we're believing it might not happen. And if we're believing it might not happen, that is not the best conscious practice.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about hope, I always say hope is wimpy. It's like, oh, I hope I get a nice Christmas present. I hope this person calls me. It's so wimpy. There's no energy behind it at all. Intention, on the other hand, is our power.
And I would say also for the 21-year-old, never voted before in a presidential election, turned off by the whole thing, and suddenly things change, and now, quote unquote, hope has been constituted in that person. That's a part of the hope that I don't want to, dilute at all, because that part, I agree with everything you're saying, Royce. And I think that in this case, the hope is not so wimpy. It could just be made even stronger.
Yes.
But I'm with you in the beginning when people come to me and they're like, well, I really hope this happens. I really have a wish for them. I go, come on, let's go. Intention.
Yeah. Tension, of course, you have to be really careful with, because you've got all those little subconscious beliefs underneath going, yeah, you intend it, but you really intend this other thing, so you can look like a victim and poor me. So you've got to clear out all of that stuff so that you noise. That's an interesting noise.
Some valve release of energy somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so in the process, that the way that I do it, Royce, is we start with the intention, like I was saying before in talking with Jacqui. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What is it? Ideal world. Nobody can say no. And that's when that other stuff comes right up. So
Yes.
I always have people working like a worksheet for the intention. Okay, let me get all the mechanics down. Let me put it in the right kind of language and all of that. And then I call it a dump list. Dump all that other material on this list. We will get to it. But I like to work with people when I know what they want, because then everything's very clear. If I don't know what somebody wants, we're just kind of flailing around. But now we've got, to your point, all that desire for and wishing and hoping and whatever we're wanting mixed up with all the conscious, subconscious, unconscious, doubt, worry, deservingness issues. So in the way I do it, it's not terribly complicated. It's just, let's separate all this out. Now we've got, okay, here's the good stuff that I want. Here are the reasons why I think I might not be able to have it. And now we can go about cultivating the intention, foot on the gas, go man, go. And then when we notice our foot on the brake with all the old stuff, we just address that stuff then. But it's very then specific to that person, that group, that organization.
Yeah.
And I just find
it reminds me of that poster of Obama that said hope, the red, white, and blue artist that makes those kind of posters. And I think one thing about the word hope with politics, though, is it instills mostly a really good feeling in people, a feeling of maybe in a good way, like I could dream of something that could happen, and thinking of potentiality and wow, what if, so there is that side of it too. So you have to almost combine intention with hope.
Well, I think the hope is on the way to intention. It's like an on-ramp.
Right. Yeah.
Keep going with. That's the part that I don't want to drown out at all. I just want to build upon it, because if we just stay just in the hope, then we're back to where Royce is. It's like, well, I hope. But what does that really mean? What am I saying? Am I saying that it's going to happen, or am I saying it might not happen? And what I'm then saying is, if we're wanting something and believing it might not happen, then we're in our own way, and we can undo that.
I wanted to share this toward the end, but it seems appropriate to share it right now. Somebody needs to be removed. Okay. Go ahead, Jacqui. But I wanted to share a story that happened to me, and I wish I could remember exactly when it happened, but it was some particular presidential election, and it was a very polarizing election. It might have been Nixon, although I don't know. It might have been after that. It must have been after that, because I was already an adult. And I found myself really wanting this other person to win. It was really important to me that this other person won against this other guy, who shall remain nameless. I found myself standing in the voting booth, and I had pretty recently started a spiritual journey. And I'm standing there about ready to X off my person that I wanted. And I had this realization, and it kind of blew my mind as I was standing there. And the realization was, Royce, whoever you vote for doesn't matter because you've already chosen. Everybody's already chosen. And I meant that spiritually in terms of
Right.
what we're supposed to learn, what we're supposed to experience, what we're supposed to go through, what this person is bringing us in terms of lessons and mirrors. And I just was like, oh no, wait. So of course I voted for the one that I wanted, but I had to reach the point of acceptance that we've already chosen. So how do you guys feel about that? Because that is was such a spiritual awakening for me that I still think of it every time I mark my ballot.
Well, I personally, the last 8 or 10 years that we've been going through this, even longer really, with during Obama's time, there was a lot of strange new kind of political party stuff that was happening with Tea Party or whatever. But it seemed to me that, thinking about how the politics have been unrolling, it's been a mirror of almost having compassion for Donald Trump, which I heard somebody say in an analysis that people were kind of feeling sorry for him. And I've heard you say that a lot, Royce, not in that way, just more of he's doing important stuff for us.
Yes.
He's presenting to us a big understanding of things that we need to heal and things that we're still working through, and almost like a Band-Aid that's been there that we need to take the Band-Aid off and start to work on the deeper healing and helping this wound get better all the way.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a mirror of trickiness or confusion, but it's also a mirror of healing and a really big picture of shifting for us as a planet.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, he's just, we didn't get it with other situations with Hitler. We didn't get it, and now we're being presented with it again so we can get it this time, hopefully. Hope.
Well,
Absolutely. And, I always say this about mirrors. If enough of us get it, things are going to shift. We can be the 100th monkey. We can be the change just by looking within and saying, okay, I'm really pissed off that he's lying right now. I'm really pissed off that he's, a racist. Okay, how am I lying? How am I a racist? What is this a mirror of for me? And resolve it from that place, and that my energy shifts and lots of other energy shifts. So that's the intention behind what we can do,
Right.
Well, thanks to your work, Royce, and so many years ago and continuing on in various ways, one of the things when I talk about writing conscious politics, and I'm doing it because I want to shift the conversation and move it along and change it into something else. And I've often said, I'm a guy that loves politics. I'm just a citizen, but I've been into it and geeking out about politics since I was 9 years old. And that's just me. And I know there are people on the end of the spectrum that couldn't care less and never pay attention. Anyway, all to say that as now the author of Conscious Politics, I often have said, I look at the news and my head doesn't explode. I can look at somebody like the former president and current candidate who, I find abhorrent on virtually every level, but I don't get triggered in any way anymore, And so
Wonderful.
I like to use him and this campaign oftentimes as just a thermostat temperature taking for myself. Now trust me, I mean, I'm a New York Jew. I can get emotional and very animated about all kinds of things. I had a partner who once called it, he gets a little enthusiastic. So it's not that I don't have thoughts, ideas, and feelings, but I know the difference between being triggered and then being in your trigger and having no conscious awareness of what's going on and not that. So I've actually appreciated, especially since we've been talking about doing today and looking at politics a little bit more through specifically a mirror lens, and just seeing, I see a lot between his projections and what he sees as mirrors. We could go on forever, but again, for me, it's just, wow. All right, guy, dude, go give me everything you got, because you're not going to get me. You're not going to get me to react the way that I used to, as a matter of course.
Yeah,
that is so well said. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Royce. That is so well said. It made me, I almost had a surge inside my frontal heart area right when you said that, of, oh, it's okay. Just like a whole sense of bigger, higher self-awareness, which kind of goes back to what I was saying about your sharing about it, Royce, that the big picture is, this is all just a presentation to us of learning in the encyclopedia of life. Trump is one page. It's under TRUMP. And other things, you guys are in the encyclopedia. We're all in there, and it's all just a learning moment, and it's very powerful, and it's really going to be good.
Well, Royce, your question earlier is a massive one about, there you are in the voting booth, and does it matter? Does it matter who you vote for? Because on a larger scale, we've already made some decisions. So this is where, I am the anti-philosophy I'm not anti anything, but I'm not drawn to philosophy. It doesn't interest me. I don't like talking in circles about what's going on. I'm very practically oriented. That's just me. And when I hear this question about, well, it really doesn't matter what any of us are doing all day, any day, because it's already been done, and we're just sort of puppets. And I personally, I understand that perspective, but then the question comes, well, why get up in the morning? Why do it? Like, what are we here to do? So when I'm confronted with that particular question, and it's just me, I still believe I'm here for a reason in this body, for a purpose, for a purpose. I still believe, personally, that we have free will. One of the concepts I work with is choice is abound. So I'm inspired and driven by those ideas, and I find that compared to the first half of my life, when these were foreign to me, or unknown to me, life is far more interesting, far more meaningful, far more fun. And I personally don't find it fun to wake up in the morning and think it doesn't make a bit of difference what I do. But I understand what people are saying and why that's a thing. And I could be 100% wrong. But to answer your specific question, that's where I tend to come down.
Yeah. And I'm to clarify, I'm not saying that, we are victims and why bother to get up in the morning. I'm just saying that collective consciousness,
that question,
we need to learn something specific on a massive level. So we are choosing this avenue to get that lesson. Yeah. Does that make
I wanted to kind of touch off of that with something that came up a little bit earlier about the male-female aspect that you were sensing, that there's a big healing going on the planet with male energy and female energy. And we've sort of had a patriarchal influence for, thousands of years now. And possibly we've had matriarchal influences. I'm pretty sure we have, with all the very feminine power women statues and miniature carvings and stuff that have been found with, round, full women that look like representations of a fertile, abundant mirror, right? And how I feel like Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are both representations of this healing you're talking about. And the bigger picture is going to, and this relates so much to young people today, and I love how she brought that up in the debate. Not only young people, adults, but young children under 18 and under as well. So I feel like all of that is really more about going back to our roots and our ancient ways of living, the male-female connection more in alignment with each other, and ultimately really coming to a healing of the earth. And so this political stuff that we're navigating, and we're all trying to kind of lift each other up. And I love what you're doing, Stephen, because you're trying to help people perspectively, no matter what their perspectives are. It doesn't matter, or their
Right.
political background or any, it doesn't matter. We're all just needing to help each other arm in arm, embracing one another, because we have more in common, like it was said earlier. And ultimately, we're trying to help heal what we belong to. We belong to the earth. Like you said, it was your last of your 15 statements. Yes, it's backwards. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We belong to the planet, not the planet to us.
Yes. And isn't that right? Like, we're healing the male, female, coming together. We're seeing what we can reach, what we can hope for and intend. Right. Yes. And help Mother Earth help us again.
Yay.
I wanted to say too, at the end of your, Stephen, like, what a goal as an educator and as a psychologist is to help people reach their optimal capacity. Yes. So what we need to do is go arm in arm together. And I always say this to people in kind of closing down conversations, so that we can all have the same shared interest and focus to help each other reach our optimal development, arm in arm together, walking arm in arm.
Yeah. Well, so I know, Stephen, you need to sign off at this point. Is that?
Yeah.
You do? Yeah. Well, I thank you so much for being here. Tell people how to read your Substack or how to reach you, buy your books.
So 2 websites will get you to me. The first one is spiritualworkout.com, spiritualworkout.com. And then I also have consciouspolitics.us, consciouspolitics.us. If you go to the consciouspolitics.us, you can get to the Substack from there very readily.
Great. And the Substack is just filled with information. It's just great.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, there's quite an archive, and
yeah. And I love the whole notion of spiritual workout. I think that's just great. And the logo of the strong guy, it's just great. Yeah.
I have one right here. Oh, it's backwards? Is that backwards to you?
Backwards. I don't know why. I think you can reverse it. I think there's a button to do that.
Mirror that. That's
next
okay.
time. Well, thank you both very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's fun talking.
Awesome. And I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Take good care. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you. Bye.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
So I wanted to end with reading something that came in my email today. Perfect timing, of course. This is from Mike Dooley. He writes these daily little reminders called the TUT-COM, the Universe Speaks or Universe Talks. And he gave 7 things to remind everybody about. I'm not going to read all of the explanation that he gives, but I want to just say, number 1, he says, to any and every degree possible, do not take sides. Honor your own heartfelt leanings, preferences, and choices without making anyone else wrong. The second one is, know that being alive at this crossroads in time is an extraordinary privilege. Number 3, do not despair at the world's chaos. Circumstances do not portend outcomes. 4, highly evolved beings are now crowded around the planet, some physically and some spiritually. 5, refrain from judging others. That's what we keep talking about here. If you're judging others, you are judging yourself. Number 6, your own unique great awakening began a long, long time ago. So not our first rodeo. And number 7, day by day, make every choice from the highest within you. Lean in, act the part of someone who is awakened. Challenge yourself to be even happier in the density of time, space, and matter as you come to know yourself as the eternal spark of the divine. So I just thought that would be just a wonderful way to close out the show.
Yes. Can you please post those on your website?
I will do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
Yeah. And I just
reminder.
want to remind everybody that whatever choice you make, listen to your intuition, what we deserve, what we all deserve, and know that the choice that you're making has already been made on some level. Go out and vote anyway. Do you have any final words, Jacqui?
I just want to, say how lucky I feel to be part of this whole interaction with Mother Earth and all the humans. And sometimes it's hard
Yeah.
and it's not fun, but the big picture, which is the most important one to really see a lot of times in the sense of your life, is often a reminder of how special life can be.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here with your wonderful input and questions. And I will see everybody next week on my Perfect Life Awakening show. And the following week after that, another episode of Mirroring. Thank you so much and take care.
Thank you, Royce. Bye-bye.